Have you ever found yourself reeling from the end of a profound, soul-shaking relationship, only to catch yourself weeks or even days later, already entangled with someone new? Have you wondered why you felt an almost compulsive need to fill the sudden, cavernous void, to replace the lost connection before the echo of its absence could even fade? What if I told you that the frantic race toward a new relationship isn't a sign of resilience, but a profound act of emotional avoidance, a desperate attempt to outrun a grief that demands to be felt? We're often told that the best way to get over someone is to get under someone new, a shallow platitude that masquerades as wisdom. But what if that quick fix is a mirage, a temporary anesthesia that only delays and deepens the inevitable pain, building a new house on the shaky ground of an old heartbreak? What's the true cost of using another person as a bandage for a wound you're afraid to look at? Welcome to Love Threads, your guide to understanding the intricate world of modern connection. At Love Threads, we don't just talk about relationships, we deconstruct them. We blend authentic, grounded insights with robust, evidence-based psychology, giving you the real intelligence on why we connect, why we sometimes misstep, and how to truly thrive when love feels like a constantly shifting landscape. Tonight, we're unraveling the rebound reality and the difficult yet necessary journey to embrace a period of solitude as a profound act of self-love and healing. The dilemma. We're taught to compromise, to care, to connect, to seek our completion in another. We are given countless maps for finding a partner, for building a life together, for making a relationship work. But what happens when that relationship ends? In a culture that often lacks clear rituals for loss, we are given no framework for the inevitable and often devastating process of uncoupling, for the sacred work of grieving not just the person we lost, but the future that was promised, the dreams that were built, and the version of ourselves that existed within that partnership. The absence of a clear path leaves us acutely vulnerable to a powerful, primal urge, the avoidance of pain. In our hyper-connected world, where dating apps promise infinite options and a constant stream of new faces, the temptation to leap from one connection to the next becomes an almost irresistible escape route, a siren song promising instant relief. In a world of infinite options and endless self-help advice, why do we still find ourselves so profoundly lonely after a breakup? Why do we feel an almost compulsive need to race to replace, rather than pause to process? The answer is often rooted in the deep-seated fear of the void itself, the terrifying silence that follows a breakup, the echo of a life that is no longer, the collapse of a shared identity. This fear is a primal wound. You may have learned early on that to be alone was to be abandoned, to be unchosen, and that your fundamental value was intrinsically tied to being in a partnership. The rebound is a powerful, yet ultimately hollow antidote to this fear, a desperate effort to silence the internal panic. It is a new story, hastily written over a page that is still wet with the ink of the last one. This isn't a conscious choice, but an unconscious survival mechanism, a profound emotional bypass where we use a new person as a distraction, a human shield against the pain we are terrified to face alone. The self is once again put on hold in the service of avoiding the painful, yet necessary work of a solo journey toward healing. This dynamic creates a cruel paradox. The rebound is a relationship built not on a genuine connection between two whole people, but on one person's desperate need to not be alone. It creates an illusion of intimacy that is, at its core, a form of self-abandonment, where we sacrifice our own healing and long-term well-being for the temporary comfort of someone else's presence. The rebound offers a quick fix, but it comes at the profound cost of delaying the very grief that, once faced, has the power to set us free. Archetypal association. To truly grasp the dynamics of the rebound reality, let's explore the narratives of three distinct archetypes who often find themselves entangled in this powerful pattern, each driven by a unique, yet equally compelling inner logic. These are the whispers of hearts seeking to mend themselves in the most inefficient ways possible. The escape artist. the archetype of the perpetual mover. Imagine an individual who is outwardly charismatic, fun-loving, and always in motion. This person is the life of the party, constantly surrounded by friends, and possesses an infectious energy. Yet, beneath the surface of their vibrant life lies a profound discomfort with stillness, an almost phobic fear of their own inner world. They are the escape artist, an archetype who has learned that perpetual motion, both socially and relationally, is the most effective way to outrun pain. When their last relationship, a long-term and deeply committed one, ended, it didn't just break their heart, it shattered their carefully constructed life, leaving them with an emotional vacuum they instinctively refused to face. Within a week, they had already messaged someone new from their past, and within a month, they were officially in a new relationship. For the escape artist, the rebound isn't about finding a better love, it's about finding a better distraction. This individual, operating with a strong avoidant attachment style, learned in their childhood that emotions were a liability. Their caregivers may have been emotionally absent or overwhelmed, teaching them that their feelings were a burden and that true independence meant not needing anyone. As an adult, the grief and vulnerability of a breakup are perceived as a threat to their autonomy, a sign of weakness that must be immediately neutralized. The new partner becomes a powerful shield against the past, a new story to tell themselves and others that they are fine, that they are desirable, that they have not been wounded. This is a subtle yet profound self-betrayal. They are not choosing the new partner, they are choosing to escape. The new person serves as a convenient and socially acceptable excuse to not do the hard work of sitting with their grief. This archetype is the embodiment of the lone wanderer from a Jungian perspective, always moving, always independent, but secretly terrified that if they stop, the ghosts of their past will finally catch up to them. This pattern may be an unconscious loyalty to a family system where pain was never spoken of, where a parent moved on quickly after a loss, teaching them that grief was a private, shameful burden to be silently endured and quickly replaced. They are not intentionally cruel. They are simply playing out a generational script of emotional unavailability. The rebound for them is a tragic and temporary fortress built on the illusion of self-sufficiency. The replacement seeker, the archetype of the incomplete self. Then there is the individual whose life is defined by a deep, almost insatiable need to be in a partnership. They are kind, caring, and often an over-giver in relationships. To this person, being single feels less like a state of independence and more like a state of limbo, an unfinished sentence. They are the replacement seeker, an archetype whose core identity is so intertwined with being one half of a couple that a breakup doesn't just end a relationship, it creates a profound identity crisis. They are driven by an anxious attachment style, a pattern often born from inconsistent caregiving. As a child, their sense of self-worth was inextricably linked to the presence and approval of their primary caregivers. When that love was inconsistent, they learned to be hypervigilant and to seek external validation to feel safe. After a breakup, this individual is left with not only a broken heart, but a shattered sense of self. The void isn't just about missing the other person, it's about not knowing who they are on their own. They feel like a puzzle with missing pieces. The rebound for them is not a distraction from pain, but a desperate and immediate effort to restore their identity. They find a new partner not out of a genuine, deep connection, but out of a need for a reflection, a new mirror to tell them they are worthy, lovable, and complete. They will often seek someone who is the opposite of their ex, or someone who can fill the specific roles their ex played, creating a new, albeit fragile, sense of normalcy. This individual is the quintessential orphan archetype from the perspective of their sacred contract, a person who feels fundamentally alone and incomplete without a partner. They believe their wholeness can only be found in a union with another, a profound misunderstanding of their own inner power. This pattern can be a systemic echo of a family where people were never truly seen as individuals, but as roles: a mother, a father, a spouse, and personal identity was sacrificed for the collective unit. The replacement seeker is loyal to the burden of never being alone, a fear that was likely passed down through the generations. Their rebound is a desperate race to restore a sense of belonging, a poignant and often heartbreaking attempt to find a home in another person before they have found one within themselves. The perpetual griever, the archetype of the emotional martyr. Finally, we have the individual who carries their pain with a heavy, visible weight. They are deeply empathetic and emotionally sensitive. For them, a breakup isn't a clean break. It is an open wound that they struggle to heal. They are the perpetual griever, an archetype who, in their desire to feel the depths of their pain, often becomes trapped by it. This person will find a new partner, not to forget their ex, but to have a witness to their grief. The new relationship becomes a confessional, a space where they can endlessly talk about their past, their pain, and the person they lost. This behavior, while seemingly about processing, is often a form of emotional martyrdom, a subtle, unconscious way of keeping the old relationship alive. They are driven by an anxiously attached style, but their manifestation is different from the replacement seeker. The perpetual griever's focus is on the past, not the future. The new partner is often a compassionate, patient person who listens tirelessly, offering support and a safe space for the grieving. This dynamic, however, is deeply unfair and unsustainable. The new relationship is not built on mutual respect and shared joy. It is built on a foundation of one person's unresolved pain. This individual's archetype is the martyr or victim, a person who finds their identity and even a sense of noble purpose in their suffering. They may have a systemic loyalty to a family pattern where grief was publicly displayed and became a source of attention and identity. This person unconsciously learned that to be seen and cared for, they had to be in pain. The new partner, in this case, becomes a new caregiver, a new audience for a tragedy that needs to be privately resolved. The rebound for the perpetual griever is a complex and damaging cycle that keeps them tethered to their past, unable to genuinely move forward while unwittingly using another person as a tool in their unresolved emotional drama. These anecdotal threads, while distinct, all reveal a common truth. The rebound is rarely about the new person. It is a profound, often desperate dance with our own inner world, a manifestation of unhealed wounds, attachment blueprints, and deeply ingrained archetypal drives that seek to protect us from a pain we believe we cannot endure alone. What you're experiencing in the rebound reality isn't a personal failure of character, a deficit of willpower, or a simple lapse of judgment. It is, at its core, a survival mechanism, a deeply ingrained, often unconscious attempt to avoid the profound, uncomfortable, and often terrifying process of grief. Your nervous system, meticulously wired through your earliest attachment experiences, is screaming at you to seek connection, to find a sense of safety, to avoid the feeling of being abandoned. The rebound in its most basic form is a powerful, temporary solution to a primal problem. It's an act of emotional avoidance, a profound psychological bypass, where the self is put on hold to maintain a fragile sense of stability. Let's talk about why your nervous system struggles so deeply with the pain of a breakup and why it feels so unsafe to be alone. The grief process and emotional avoidance. The end of a significant relationship is a form of loss, and loss triggers a grief process that is as real and as necessary as mourning a death. This process, as articulated by various psychological models, is not linear. It moves through stages like shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and eventually acceptance. The rebound is often a manifestation of a frozen or bypassed grief, an act of a person who has become stuck in the denial or bargaining phases. By jumping into a new relationship, you are essentially telling your emotional self that the loss never happened, that the future you had planned with your ex isn't truly gone, because now you're building a new future with someone else. This is a profound and dangerous form of emotional avoidance. It's a way of numbing the pain with the dopamine hits of new romance, the thrill of the chase, and the validation of being wanted. The new person becomes a powerful drug, a source of distraction that keeps you from the painful yet ultimately essential work of feeling your feelings. The rebound acts as a container for your unprocessed pain, but it's a weak and leaky one. The grief doesn't disappear, it gets stored in the shadow, where it will inevitably seep out in subtle and destructive ways, through emotional unavailability, constant comparison to the ex, and a profound inability to be fully present with the new person. The rebound relationship is therefore a relationship between two people and the ghost of a third. The new partner is being asked to carry the unhealed grief, and this is a burden that no one can or should be asked to bear. Adult attachment theory. The rebound as a relational reflex. The rebound reality is a textbook example of attachment styles in action. Your specific attachment pattern, formed in childhood, dictates how your nervous system responds to the threat of abandonment. The anxiously attached individual and the rebound. For the anxiously attached, a breakup triggers the deepest core fear, abandonment. Their attachment system goes into a state of hyperactivation, a frantic search for connection to soothe the intense panic. The rebound isn't a choice, it's a reflex. They desperately need to restore a sense of safety and validation, and the most immediate way to do that is to find a new source of external validation. The new partner becomes a powerful tool to regulate their dysregulated nervous system. They will often rush the new relationship, seeking immediate commitment, reassurance, and a quick return to a state of being coupled. This isn't malicious, it's a deeply ingrained survival pattern. They feel they cannot survive alone, so they must find a new anchor, a new home for their sense of self. They are unconsciously reenacting the pain of their childhood, trying to force a consistent, secure connection to soothe the old wound of inconsistent care. The avoidantly attached individual and the rebound. For the avoidantly attached, a breakup is a relief from the perceived threat of engulfment, of losing their autonomy. Yet they still experience a profound sense of loneliness. Their nervous system solution is to find a low-stakes connection, a rebound that provides companionship and intimacy without the perceived cost of deep emotional vulnerability. They will often choose a rebound partner who is emotionally distant or who has their own issues, ensuring that the new relationship never gets too real. The new partner provides a convenient distraction from the pain of the previous breakup, while simultaneously reinforcing their belief that they are fine on their own, that they don't need deep, messy intimacy. This is a brilliant, albeit destructive, defensive maneuver. The rebound proves that they are desirable and capable of connection without ever having to engage with their own unhealed grief. Family systems and systemic entanglements. This is where the rebound reality meets the unconscious loyalties of your family system. From a systemic perspective, we are often entangled in patterns and traumas that are not our own, but belong to our ancestors. Unresolved systemic grief. Did an ancestor experience a profound and unhealed loss? Perhaps a parent or grandparent who lost a spouse and immediately remarried, never allowing themselves or their children to grieve? This creates a systemic pattern of emotional avoidance, an unspoken rule that we move on quickly, we don't dwell on pain. As a descendant, you might unconsciously feel a profound loyalty to this pattern. You may feel a deep-seated, though illogical pressure to avoid grief, to be strong, to not be a burden. The rebound is a way of honoring this invisible family burden, an act of self-sacrifice that keeps you from confronting your own pain. You are unconsciously telling your family system, I will not feel this pain so that you do not have to feel it again. The myth of the perfect family. Some family systems are built on a fragile myth of perfect happiness and stability. In such a system, a breakup is not just a personal failure, it's a systemic failure, a crack in the perfect facade. An individual from this background may feel an immense pressure to quickly find a new partner to restore the perfect picture, to prove to their family and themselves that they are fine, that they are not broken. The rebound is an act of codependency with the family system itself, a desperate attempt to restore harmony and earn approval by creating the illusion of a complete and happy life. The rebound is not an isolated event. It is a meticulously woven thread in your personal and ancestral tapestry. It is a recurring pattern, a deeply ingrained blueprint attempting to reveal something critical about your deepest relational wounds, your unaddressed fears, and your most enduring, often unconscious, loyalties. Understanding this allows us to move from blame to compassion, and from repetition to conscious transformation. Rewriting the narrative. Breaking free from the powerful, seductive pull of the rebound reality isn't about trying harder to get a new person to fill the void. It's a courageous act of redirecting your energy from the external chase to the profound reclamation of your inner world. This is where you stop using a new person as a bandage for your wound and begin the sacred and often uncomfortable work of healing yourself. It involves dismantling the unconscious blueprint that made you believe love and a sense of self had to be found in another, and replacing it with a new, authentic narrative that honors your inherent worth and your right to grieve. This is a dedicated, often challenging process of intentional action. It's about moving from a state of perpetual longing for a partner to one of profound self-possession. Phase 1. The conscious pause. Before you can build a new way of relating, you must first stop the old cycle. The first act of rebellion against the rebound is to pause the chase and turn inward. Mindful observation. The next time you feel the familiar impulse to chase, to swipe right on a dating app, or to fill your calendar with dates, just pause. Don't act on it. Instead, become a silent observer of your own internal landscape. Ask yourself, what is my body feeling right now? Is there a hollow ache in my chest? What emotion is driving this impulse? Is it a fear of loneliness, a need for validation, or the ghost of a past connection? This simple, conscious act of separation between feeling and action starts to break the deeply ingrained neural pathways of the rebound. You're teaching your nervous system that it is safe to not pursue, that the world won't end just because you are alone with your feelings. You are offering yourself a new form of safety. Trace the echoes of your past. The rebound is often a familiar echo. Use journaling as a tool to explore this. Write about your earliest memories of loss and connection. Was grief a supported process in your family, or was it something to be hidden or overcome quickly? Did you feel you had to prove your independence or happiness to a parent or caregiver after a loss? What was the unspoken contract you inherited about being alone? By bringing these echoes into conscious awareness, you can begin to see that the pattern isn't a flaw in your present self, but a survival strategy from your past. You can look at that inner child who learned to escape or replace and offer them the unconditional compassion they were denied. Phase 2. The sacred work of grieving. The rebound thrives on unprocessed pain. To break its spell, you must actively and intentionally engage with the grief you've been avoiding. Acknowledge the loss. Give yourself permission to truly grieve the end of the relationship. This isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of profound courage. Grieve not only the person you lost, but the future you had planned, the identity you had built, and the promises that were made. Create a ritual for this. Write a letter to your ex that you don't send. Spend time alone in nature. Find a space to cry, to be angry, to be sad. Acknowledge the pain in its entirety without judgment. This is the only way to release it. Cultivate your own symphony. The rebound is often an attempt to immediately replace a lost symphony with another. To break this cycle, you must consciously begin writing and playing your own. What are your passions, your hobbies, your interests outside of a relationship? What brings you joy, a sense of purpose, and a feeling of being wholly and completely you? Actively invest your time and energy in these pursuits. This builds a robust sense of self-worth that is not dependent on external validation. You become a complete composition, not a half-finished note waiting for someone else to play the rest. Phase 3, the new relationship blueprint, from rebounding to choosing. Once you have done the internal work, you are ready to approach relationships from a new place of wholeness, not a void. Redefine readiness. Your new readiness for a relationship isn't measured by how long you've been single, but by the depth of the self-work you've done. You are ready when you can genuinely say, I am happy and whole on my own, and I am choosing to invite someone into this full and beautiful life, not because I need them to complete me, but because I want to share my life with them. Define your non-negotiables. You can no longer be a replacement for someone else's pain or to use another person as a tool for your own. Based on your new self-awareness, define your non-negotiables for a healthy relationship. What does consistent, reciprocal connection actually look like to you? What does respect feel like? This isn't a rigid list of demands, but a new, empowered standard for the kind of connection you deserve. When a new person presents themselves, you no longer chase its potential. You measure it against your non-negotiables. If it falls short, you have the courage and the self-respect to walk away. Embrace the quiet of secure love. True security can feel foreign and even boring to a system wired for the drama of the rebound. It can feel like a lack of passion when it's actually a profound, quiet peace. Be prepared for this discomfort. This is where you practice staying with the partner when you feel the urge to create drama, and this is where you practice allowing your new partner to be there for you without the need to prove you are worthy of their presence. Trust that a love that doesn't need to be earned is the most real and sustaining love of all. The turning point. But what if, beneath the frantic rush to find a new relationship, wasn't a flaw in your design, a deficit in your ability to be alone, but rather your soul's most profound, often unheard cry for a sense of belonging? What if the relentless pursuit of a new connection was actually a profound, if misguided, attempt to heal an old wound by trying to change the past in the present, to turn an unreciprocated childhood longing for consistency and safety into a reciprocated adult love, to finally find a home that felt safe and permanent? The rebound wasn't just a mistake. It was a desperate, unscripted attempt to close a gaping emotional wound with the first available person, hoping their presence could somehow mend what you felt was broken inside you. It was a search for a compass in another person, rather than trusting the one that resides within. This is the turning point. Healing begins not when you find the right person to finally complete you, but when you consciously choose to stop outsourcing your inherent worth to the elusive echoes of our past, to the unfulfilled promises of old relationships, or to the tantalizing yet ultimately empty potential of a new person you barely know. It begins when we recognize that the profound, encompassing love we've been trying so desperately to pull from a rebound, the constant need for validation, the frantic search for a sense of safety, is in its purest form the very love we are capable of cultivating within ourselves. This is a boundless, unconditional wellspring of self-acceptance that doesn't need external permission to exist. This inner work is the true foundation of your future. You absolutely can belong to yourself fully, completely, and unapologetically without abandoning the innate human desire for deep connection. In fact, it is only when you cultivate that profound sense of internal belonging, when you become your own most reliable source of validation and security, your own steadfast anchor in the storm, that you can truly enter into relationships that are whole, reciprocal, and genuinely nourishing. These connections cease to be frantic searches for completion and instead become alliances between two whole individuals. A beautiful and mutual choice, not a codependent need. The relationship is no longer a crutch, but a celebration of two complete lives coming together. The rebound then transforms from a painful trap into a profound teacher. It served its purpose by showing you what you were truly running from, what you were desperately seeking, and where your deepest wounds lay. It was a catalyst for this very moment of self-realization. It's a quiet, sacred truth, a knowing that settles deep in your bones. The rebound was never meant to be your destination. It was simply preparing you for the true connection once you are ready to receive it, not from a place of desperation and deficit, but from an abundant, unshakable self-worth. The journey out of the rebound reality is not merely a path, but a pilgrimage towards self-reclamation. It is the courageous act of dismantling the long-held belief that your worth is a prize to be won in a relationship, or a currency to be earned through being chosen. Instead, it is the sacred process of embracing the profound, unshakable truth that your worth is inherent, simply because you exist. By daring to look at the pain you've been running from, courageously understanding your unmet emotional needs, and engaging in the sacred work of grief, you can finally begin to heal. This internal shift is what transforms relationships from draining codependent entanglements into spaces of genuine mutual growth and authentic connection. You move from being a half in a desperate search for completion to a whole, sovereign person ready to share your life from a place of genuine abundance. This path demands immense patience, deep compassion for yourself, and the unwavering willingness to sit with the terrifying discomfort of being alone. This solitude, which the rebound was meant to silence, is not an empty space, but a crucible for your transformation. It's a difficult journey, but the reward is immense. A life where you are fully present, authentically embodied, and capable of fostering connections that truly nourish and uplift you without costing you your sense of self. This is a life not of mere survival, but of thriving on your own terms. It's about creating love threads that are strong and flexible, beautifully intertwined, but never so fused that they lose their individual integrity. These are not connections born of need or fear, but of conscious choice and mutual respect. This profound transformation asks you to turn inward and face the most fundamental question of all. What are you truly running from? What would it feel like to love and to be loved, not from a place of avoidance and fear, but from a place of profound wholeness? To know with certainty that you are enough on your own, and that any love you welcome into your life is an addition, not a necessity. This is not a theoretical exercise. It is an invitation to live your life from a new, solid, and unshakable foundation. Maybe the most radical thing you can do after a breakup is nothing at all, and in that nothing, find everything you ever needed. Have you recognized yourself or a pattern you've experienced in the rebound reality? What steps are you taking, or what insights have you gained on your journey to reclaim your identity and embrace a period of healing? Share your experiences and reflections in the comments below, and let's continue to unravel the heart of modern connection, one insightful thread at a time.